Whenever the vice president and a majority of either the principal office of the executive departments or of such other body as Congress may by law provide transmit to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives their written declaration that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the Vice President shall immediately assume the powers and duties of the office as acting President. Thereafter, when the President transmits to the President pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives his written declaration that no inability exists, he shall resume the powers and duties of his office, unless the Vice President and a majority of either the principal officers of the executive department or of such other body as Congress may by law provide transmit within 4 days to the President pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives their written declaration that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. Thereupon, Congress shall decide the issue, assembling within 48 hours for that purpose, if not in session. If the Congress, within 21 days after receipt of the latter written declaration, or if Congress is not in session, within 21 days after Congress is required to assemble, determines by 2/3 vote of both houses that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the Vice President shall continue to discharge the same as acting President. Otherwise, the President shall resume the powers and duties of his office. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Section 4 of the Constitution of the United States, Amendment 25. Section 4 of Amendment 25 of the Constitution. So I read this because the House voted to have Pence try and remove Trump from office. They voted 223 to 205 to call on Pence to strip Trump of power. Lawmakers adopted a resolution that would compel Vice President Mike Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment after President Trump incited a mob attack on the Capitol last week. In a letter to Speaker Nancy Pelosi earlier in the evening, Mr. Pence rejected the effort. This is an article from the New York Times. And the basics of it is the House formally called on Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment. In a letter to Pelosi, he rejected the House's efforts to have him strip Trump of powers. McConnell is apparently pleased about impeachment, believing it will be easier to purge Trump from the GOP. It's 6 now, which we'll get there in a little bit. 6 House Republicans back impeachment as party leaders forego formally lobbying against it. YouTube suspends Trump's channel for at least 7 days. Pelosi names 9 Democrats to lead the impeachment effort. In his first public appearance since the Capitol siege, Trump expresses no contrition for inciting the mob. Joint Chiefs of Staff remind members of armed forces to reject extremism, and enhanced security measures for the inauguration are starting earlier than planned. We are about to experience more extremism in our country than we have in a long time. At least more in recent history than we have in a long time. We're about to experience the most extreme political divides that our country has seen in decades, quite possibly since the Civil War. And I don't know what to do about that, other than say, fight for your rights, defend your homes, and stay safe. If you're new to the channel, my name is Tim. I'm the host of the Glasshouse News show and the CEO of Glasshouse Media. And I am a little worried about the state of affairs that our country is going into. That's why I started this show. My goal here is to produce a company that will compete against massive corporate news media sites like CNN and MSNBC, CBS, ABC, these propagandistic outlets for the Democratic Party, because they aren't telling us the truth. And I think we all know that they're not telling us the truth. They hate people like Donald Trump. They hate people like you. They hate people like me. All they care about is keeping their power, keeping their hold on the power. And so they will do anything to keep it, including, but not limited to, painting who used to be their friend, Donald Trump, as a villain. They will castigate and remove anyone from their lives that they deem necessary in order to remain in power. They don't care what the voters think. They don't care what you and I think. And key voters have little appetite for impeachment. This is come from an internal memo. So this is a piece by Daily Wire. 60% of battleground voters viewed Democrats' latest effort to impeach President Donald Trump as another waste of time and money, and are seeking an orderly transition of power, a leaked internal memo shows. These key voters were also found to fear big tech censorship in the wake of the apparently coordinated effort to excommunicate Trump from their platforms and eliminate conservative competitors like Parler. The Washington Examiner reported on the memo from pollster John McLaughlin's to top Trump's aide Jason Miller. Battleground voters are more eager for the nation to move on rather than impeach the president for last week's violent protest by Trump supporters in the U.S. Capitol. And if Congress doesn't move on, adds the two-page memo shown below in full, those who push for impeachment may face a voter backlash in the 2022 midterm elections. Voters strongly prefer that Congress deal with fighting coronavirus and not impeachment, McLaughlin wrote. Impeachment is viewed as a waste of time and money. Voters believe that the Democrats are playing politics, and continuing to attack the president is making it worse. McLaughlin found that 89% of battleground voters want an orderly transition from Trump to President-elect Joe Biden, with 70% calling that very important, the Examiner highlighted. Voters from key states Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Iowa, Maine, Michigan, Minnesota, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Mexico, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Texas, Virginia, and Wisconsin were found to be firmly against impeachment. Voters were found to be, quote, less likely to vote for a member of Congress who votes to impeach, with a mere 36% more likely to vote for such representatives. The Examiner outlined the key findings on impeachment as follows. 60% of all voters said it is another waste of time and money. 23% prefer impeaching Donald Trump. 77% said Congress should work on coronavirus response instead. 74% said impeachment is politically motivated to prevent the president from running again. And 65% said Biden and Pelosi are keeping the country divided. There you have it. 74% said impeachment is politically motivated. 65% said Biden and Pelosi are keeping the country divided. Man, where have we seen those numbers before? They sound eerily similar to the numbers that Donald Trump has. Approximately 65% of voters say that over the last 4 years, say that Donald Trump has been keeping the country divided. And now the tables have flipped. And they're hoping to impeach Donald Trump to boost their numbers. Like I said last week, like I've been saying over the last couple of weeks, if you thought everything was going to return to normal because Biden was elected, you've got another thing coming. Because now the Democrats think that their extreme and ridiculous actions over the last 4 years have started to work, and so now they are emboldened to double down on their extreme rhetoric and actions. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They care about keeping their power. I wasn't a fan of this all drain the swamp language that Donald Trump has been using over the last 4 years, but to be honest, it's kind of growing on me. The more that I see come out of people like Pelosi and Schumer, the more I get on board with this idea of drain the swamp. Yeah. And Trump is a swamp creature. He knows how to drain the swamp better than anyone else because he's part of it. He is a swamp creature. He is a mud monster. The more swamp you throw at him, the more mud you throw at him, the more he's gonna just look like the mud monster that he is. But if you throw mud onto a pristine-looking person like Pelosi, who her image is she wants people to think that she is above the fray, if you drag her down into the mud, She's going to start to tank. Her numbers will tank, and people will start to dislike her. Because the fact of the matter is, people voted for Donald Trump knowing exactly who he was, knowing that he is part of the swamp. It's all baked into the cake at this point. Everyone knows what kind of person he is with women. We've known that for decades. Everyone knows that he's evaded taxes. We've known that for decades. Everyone knows he dodged the draft. We've known this for decades. Everyone knew what kind of person he was going in, and we still decided he's better than Hillary Clinton. So, where do we go from here? Well, impeachment's not the way to go. The House to vote on Trump's impeachment today. They're voting today. They're currently debating on the merits of the impeachment, and in about an hour from the time that this video will be done recording is when they will vote. House moves to impeach Trump after deadly Capitol riot. Representative Crow to GOP colleagues, show a fraction of the courage we ask of our troops. Vote to impeach. This is an article from CNN. Democratic Representative Jason Crow, a veteran, called on his Republican colleagues to show a fraction of the courage of U.S. troops by voting to impeach President Trump despite their fear of consequences. I have dedicated my life to the defense of our nation, and Donald Trump is a risk to all that I love, Crow said. Some of my Republican colleagues are afraid of the consequences of an impeachment vote, but this Congress sends our men and women to war every day. I'm not asking you to storm the beaches of Normandy, but to show a fraction of the courage we ask of our troops every day. Leadership is hard. It's time to impeach, Crow said. Now, I may not agree with his tactics. I may not agree with what he's saying, but that is an effective line of attack. It is. Because, quite frankly, GOP is afraid of the consequences of what will happen if they impeach. Because they know they will be voted out of office. And so the GOP is stuck in between a rock and a hard place. Do they go with the Democrats and vote to impeach Donald Trump again? Or do they stick to their guns and say, no, I'm not giving you control, because what will happen if you get control is worse than what will happen if Trump stays in control. Democratic Congresswoman says Trump is a traitor to our country. Representative Anna Eshoo, a Democrat from California, called President Trump a traitor to our country during her speech on the White House floor this afternoon. And this just goes on and on and on and on and on. And this vote is supposed to take place at about 2:45 Central Time, 3:45 Eastern Time. It's supposed to take place before then, apparently. We are debating this historic measure at an actual crime scene, and we wouldn't be here if it weren't for the President of the United States, said Democratic Representative Jim McGovern, a co-sponsor of the article opening Wednesday's discussion on the indictment. I wonder, where would our country be right now if all of these Democrats that are so gung-ho about impeaching Donald Trump over, quote, inciting violence, which he didn't, we'll get there. How many of these, where would our country be if these Democrats who are so gung-ho about impeaching Donald Trump were also anti-riot 6 months ago when their constituents were busy burning down the country? I can't help but think that our country would be in a much better place now if the Democrats held the same standard 6 months ago that they have now. But they don't, because they want power. They want your vote, and they will play disgusting, cynical politics in order to get it. They will play the fiddle for whoever they need to play it for in order to keep their power. They will endorse riots 6 months ago in the summer and condemn the riots in the winter if it means they get more votes and stay in power. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the United States Democratic Party. They will endorse and make excuses for actions on their side of the aisle, and then 6 months later reject it when it comes from the other side. This is the Democratic Party of the United States, and it's pretty disgusting. It's morally bankrupt. It's intellectually wrong. It's just wrong. There is no rhyme or reason to what they are doing other than to keep the power. It's very, very cynical. And the fact that they are calling Trump cynical and a terrorist because of tweeting out for his supporters to stay peaceful shows how cynical they are. With Vice President Mike Pence refusing to invoke the 25th Amendment, House Democrats will vote on impeachment on Wednesday. Here's what's happening in the final days of Trump's presidency and what could happen with the impeachment trial. Wednesday morning, today, the House of Representatives began debate on an article of impeachment that charges President Donald Trump with incitement of insurrection for his role in the deadly riot of the U.S. Capitol last week. The House expects to vote before 3:45 p.m. Eastern Time. Here's how to watch. You can go. This is a CNET article. You can go click the link to watch it. But I can't help but wonder, where were these Democrats 6 months ago? The House is moving to impeach Trump after deadly Capitol riot. They're going to charge Trump for tweeting that his supporters need to stay peaceful, and they're going to charge him for incitement of insurrection after his supporters came and marched on the Capitol. But they are silent when a Bernie Sanders supporter goes in and shoots up a congressional baseball game. They are silent when their constituents go throughout the whole year for 10 months. They burn down city blocks. They take over city blocks to prop up autonomous zones. They burn down and loot private businesses, cause $3 billion worth of property damage, kill dozens of people, and injure 1,000 plus and kill cops all year long. And not one Democratic leader condemned the actions of Black Lives Matter and Antifa. So spare me the fake outrage from your side of the aisle. We don't buy it. And it's making us more angry when you pretend to be upset that Donald Trump has allegedly incited insurrection when you've been doing it all year long. Maxine Waters famously told her supporters to go harass Republicans. I'm going to pull it up right now, actually. Maxine Waters tells constituents to harass Republicans. She did this. Maxine Waters encourages supporters to harass Trump administration officials. This is from June 25th, 2018. And she's been doing this for the past 2 years, year and a half. She hasn't changed her stance. So I wonder, who's really the extremists here? Donald Trump for tweeting out, "Stay peaceful," or Maxine Waters for saying, "Let's make sure we show up wherever we have to show up"? And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd and you push back on them and you tell them they're not welcome anymore anywhere. We've got to get the children connected with their parents, Waters said. We don't know what damage has been done to these children. All that we know is that they're in cages, they're in prisons, they're in jails. I don't care what they call it. That's where they are. And Mr. President, we will see you every day, every hour, on the day, everywhere, that we are to let you know you cannot get away with this, she added. Interesting. Who built those cages? Maxine? Who built the cages? Ms. Waters, Representative Waters? Because Democrats literally just exchanged the man who they claim is putting children into cages. They traded that guy with the one who built the cages. And they think he's going to fix everything. Tell me, who's the extremist here? The one tweeting out to his supporters, "Stay peaceful"? Or the one telling their supporters, "Go harass people"? It's not the Republicans. Republicans are getting pushed off of social media all over the place every single day because Democrats don't like what they are saying because of incitement to violence. What about her? Maxine Waters. Rules for thee, but not for me. This is tyranny and this is fascism. And the left is now upset over the rise of things like Parler and MeWe and Gab and other right-wing media. Because, oh, the right just exists in an echo chamber. Who do you think put them there? That would be like the Jews relocating all of the... I'm sorry, not the Jews. The Germans relocating all of the Jews into concentration camps and then saying, oh, I'm so angry that the Jews only live in concentration camps. It doesn't make any sense. But this is the logic of the United States Democratic Party. This is where we found ourselves. The majority of Americans think that civil war is on its way. The majority of Americans believe that civil war is on its way, and they believe that it is unavoidable. I'm going to pull up the statistics right now because you need to know this. The majority of Americans believe that civil war is on the way. I'm going to read it. Americans say U.S. is 2/3 of the way to civil war. This is from October of 2019. This is before the riot in D.C. And posted 2 hours ago from Business Insider, a majority of Americans surveyed believe the U.S. is in the midst of a cold civil war. I've been talking about this for months. But no. I've just been called alt-right. You're an alt-right because you're perpetuating civil war. No. I'm sorry. No. My talking about the Civil War and how Americans think that it's existing is not the same thing as me perpetuating it. That's not how this works. Just because I've been talking about how the majority of Americans are expecting it doesn't mean I'm saying, yes, go fight in the streets. I've been saying the opposite. You think I want a civil war to tear the country that I love apart? Of the 33,000 people surveyed by Edelman, over half believe the government leaders and journalists are purposefully misleading the public. 3 out of 4 people do not properly vet the information they find online, according to the report, and over half the people surveyed put more faith in CEOs and companies than the government. There you go. This is where we are at. The majority of Americans believe a civil war is on the way because a civil war, we're already in the midst of it. We've been in a cold civil war for the better part of the last decade. And now everything's about to blow up. Everything is about to come loose. The wrapping on the box, the ribbon that is keeping Pandora's box shut. The Democrats have been pulling it, and pulling it. And so the moment that a Republican says, okay, you're going to pull it, I'm also going to pull it. The Democrats have pulled that string just so slightly that as soon as a Republican touches it, they're going to release it. And now the Democrats can claim, look what the Republicans have done. And they've spent the last 10, 15 years sowing the ground for this disgusting, evil war that we are about to find ourselves in. The Democrats have been setting the ground and setting the stage so that as soon as a Republican walks on, game on. And then they can blame the Democrats, and then the Democrats can blame the Republicans for it. This is where we are at in America. Please, stay calm. Don't go do anything extreme. Keep yourself safe. Keep your family safe. Try not to burn down the country while I'm gone. Even if you do, I'll be here tomorrow to cover it. Please, share this video with your friends. Spread the information. Because, like this Business Insider article shows, the majority of Americans don't trust major news outlets and journalists. I hope that you can trust me. I'm providing you with the information that I see. I'm vetting this information. So, do with that what you will. Try not to burn down the country while I'm gone. Even if you do, I will be here tomorrow to cover it. Please, have a good night. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.